Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another backstage interview from the Metals Investor Forum in November. It's November 6th today. It's an interesting time to be in the gold silver space. The election is wrapping up and there seems to be more clarity in the markets, and that clarity is supportive of gold and silver. So fun times to be having these conversations. Joining me today is Gary Thompson of Brixton Metals. Thanks for being here today, Gary.
Well, thank you for having me back.
So I kind of wanted to talk about Brixton on a from a news flow angle. And let's start with the most recent big news, which is you picked up a project called Hog Heaven, amazing name for a project, by the way, just a few years ago, and recently vended that out to a big name in the space.
Yeah, Hog Heaven, interesting, certainly interesting name. There was a mine there. It's in northwest Montana. It was called the Flathead Mine that produced some very high grade, I think about 7 million ounces of silver at about 30 ounces per ton. Some gold. It's a polymetallic. The previous operators are mostly focused on the oxide material. And we picked it up it's actually interesting because it was a mine plan and they were going to build this mine in a feasibility stage project in the late 80s, and they were going to build a mine. We actually have a newspaper clipping that says they get the green light to build the mine.
Okay.
That was in like 88, 89. Of course, if you're a veteran in the space, you remember 1990 hit, price of gold and silver pretty much tanked. So it sat idle. And actually Pan American Silver acquired it in the early 90s and effectively inventoried it for the silver potential, I think, but did a bit of work on it, but not really much. I would say they just pretty much inventoried it, and we managed to pick it up in 2017. Bottom of the market deal. I would say it was a bit of a sweetheart deal. And a couple things that we liked about it was that it had a lot of work on it historically, like 722 holes and the feasibility work. Even though they were primarily focused on the oxide, we saw the significant potential for high-grade gold, silver, and even copper at depth in the lower parts of the system. We did some drilling this year. We drilled about 6-7 holes, 1,500 meters or something, to confirm some of the vintage, because most of the work was done in the 70s and 80s. So just to confirm some of the historical work, and had good results, meaningful results, I think. And so we're kind of gearing up to do some more work on that. But, in this process, and what we've been saying to the market for some time is, Brixton has 4 projects that we picked up effectively over the last downturn in the market, but we're looking to try and find a way to monetize one or more of them through strategic joint ventures, and that's what we did with the HPX group. I guess piqued their interest in that. If you look at the host rocks where this project is located, it's in the Belt Supergroup rocks, which host the giant Sullivan deposit, but also host a lot of these copper, silver, stratiform deposits like Rock Creek, Montanore, and Spar, and those types of things, which we do have potential for. We have mineralization like these stratiform copper, quartzite, silver deposits. But what I think piqued the interest of HPX is the porphyry copper gold potential, because we do see a diatreme, and we see porphyry style mineralization with high sulfidation mineralized signature that really wasn't maybe recognized. And it's a bit complicated because of that. You've got different styles of mineralization. So I think that's what where their interest lies, is seeing if we can, or if they can make a significant new discovery on a project that had various different views and angles and mining opportunity for more of the silver opportunity. But we think there's some potential for copper gold at depth here.
Lots of different angles to pursue there. I mean, the high grade surface, the stratiform, which obviously HPX, or Robert Friedland private exploration group, they have a lot of expertise in stratiform deposits of that nature, and then the porphyry potential. So, I mean, it's a great deal because Brixton has too many assets to be able to work them all anyways. And, so it provides some cash for Brixton. It provides advancement of that project with a really good group. So yeah, that was a great piece of news to see. And then next up, we should start getting results from Thorn, which is your absolutely immense land package up in the Golden Triangle. There's a lot of eyes trained on the Golden Triangle right now because that exploration season is clearly just wrapping up. And so results, well, should be flowing, but labs are very slow. So let's set the stage a little bit for what people might expect, or what you were testing at least up at Thorn this year.
Sure. We did two things. Is one, we spent about $4.5 million in the ground this year. I'm saying almost half of that money was spent on non-drilling, so geochem and geophysics. And the rationale was, look, like I said, a couple 3 years ago, this project was a different project than it is today. We acquired and expanded our holdings quite drastically over the last few years for a couple of reasons. So the idea was to, well, now we have this big trend, we're calling it a 70-kilometer mineralized trend. Well, let's go and see what we can prove along this trend with this new land package. And it wasn't all fresh land. There were a couple of blocks that had significant historical work on. So we spent a good amount of time doing, soil sampling and prospecting and mapping. And it's something like 6,000 soils and about 1,300 rocks, with various remote crews out there doing independent work. So that was a big part of our program this year. And I can tell you that we have a lot of high-grade copper gold hits over this many, many targets that we have. But I think what's probably going to be more significant to maybe to the market is the amount of drilling that we did. Because generally people don't pay for geochem and geophysics, which of course you need to do all that work before you can drill, but you don't get paid for it in the market, but it's important to do. So we did it and are doing it, and we'll continue to do it because it's been effective. But what we did most of the drilling was, we have two zones. One is called the Outlaw Zone, which is a sedimentary hosted gold target. It has a 4-kilometer trend to it. And this was originally actually found by Chevron in the 80s. And we drilled a series of probably half a dozen holes over the course of, 5 years. So we drilled about 3,000 meters, number of holes in around the main, we're calling it the Central Outlaw. And we have a central and an east and a west just because of the scale of the thing. And it's, generally fairly topographically challenging area. So we picked the easy spots to drill these things off these ridges and stuff like that. So we should have some results on the Outlaw Zone over the course of the next few weeks. At least I'm hoping by the end of November. It's certainly been painfully slow waiting for assays to come in. And then we wanted to make sure we had a couple of deep holes into the Camp Creek porphyry target before the end of the season. So we did that. And prior to that, we had done an IP geophysical survey. Actually, part of it was done last year and we finished it this year. So we were kind of waiting on that. That's why we kind of saved that for the end, because we didn't quite have the geophysics that we wanted to help guide our drilling. Why? Because this is a blind porphyry target where it looks like the porphyry style mineralization doesn't start till about 300 meters depth, which is important because most of the drilling did not drill much deeper than 300 meters. If you look at the profile of this system, where it looks like the porphyry is a deeper, that's why we're calling it a blind target, because it doesn't crop out at surface. But when you see the cloud that we're going to publish, there's a large 3-kilometer by 2-kilometer IP chargeability cloud that is open-ended. And somewhere in there, we believe there's a prize, a significant large porphyry prize. So we drilled 2 deep holes. One was 960, one was 930. I think one was 620 was our third one there. So that's going to be coming out probably in December is my guess. Maybe it might even go into the new year, depending on how the labs are being able to catch up on all the assays. So we're excited to see all that come together, and that's going to help set the stage for what we do in 2021 there.
And then very quickly, you have then interest and attention will shift to the other asset that you have that you picked up strategically because the Golden Triangle is such a seasonal place. You also have an asset in Ontario that you can work through the winter. So that's a silver focused, a high-grade silver opportunity.
Correct. Langus in the Cobalt Camp of Ontario, excellent infrastructure, low cost drilling. We're actively drilling there now. We've got about 3 weeks into the winter campaign. We hope to drill more than 20,000 meters there. And we've been successful in hitting some pretty spectacular silver and cobalt. It's native silver, which is quite unique. So we get some really impressive, actually we're getting different styles of mineralization, which is a bit fascinating. We're getting some massive sulfide to veins, to stringers, to disseminated. You get these little native silver rosettes, which are really, really neat. So of course we have to wait for all these assays, but when you hit visible gold, it's pretty obvious. And when you hit visible silver, it's also pretty obvious. Maybe not as spectacular as native gold, but it is good to see the pure silver in the rocks. And so we've been drilling on that, and with the goal really to drill all throughout the winter, and with the goal of getting into a maiden resource, because we don't have a defined resource there. Even though they produced over 10 million ounces of silver, there's no defined resource there. So that's our goal, is to get a bunch of drilling in there so we can put that into a resource category.
Busy days for you and the team at Brixton. 3 different projects. Well, now Hog Heaven is being managed by someone else, but certainly still to keep abreast of, and then 2 active big projects. Thanks for the run through, and thanks for participating in the forum. And we look forward to keeping up with all things Brixton.
Oh, you're very welcome. And yeah, good to have me on there. Appreciate it.